The name that always stands out to me is 17-year-old Gilberto Mora from Tijuana. Enormous talent. And he remains unchanged. There's some good reasons for that, right, Osvaldo?
Exactly, Manuel. As you know, Gilberto Mora suffered pubalgia. That is maybe one of the toughest injuries for players because he was like being very careful with his injury. He decided to take physical therapy instead of a surgery to being very focused in the World Cup. And he's already with the national team. But as you know, he didn't play that much in Tijuana over the last weeks and over the last months. And that's why we decided to maybe keep his value in the same level because we are about to see the best of him during the World Cup. As you know, he has been developing pretty well.
Mhm.
His performance during the World Cup, that was the last success of the Mexican national team, was pretty impressive. He was one of the best players in the last World Cup of Mexico. Javier Aguirre has already trusted on him because he shows different skills. He's a very mature player. Besides, he has already 70 years old. And as you know, he's very well represented. So we expect them to be maybe outside of Mexico once he turns 18 years old.
Yeah, Rafaela Pimenta
Exactly.
is the agent, of course, Mino Raiola's successor. If
Exactly.
you are not aware. So, yeah, very well represented is an understatement in this case. I think whenever Rafaela Pimenta has her fingers in the game, you know that you have a big talent at your hands. I find him really fascinating. First of all, when there is big talents coming out of Mexico, they are usually with one of the big clubs, right? Chivas, Club America,
Exactly.
Monterrey. Those are or Tigres as well. Those are the teams that come in mind. Tijuana, I mean, just across the border from San Diego. That's not necessarily I mean, it should be a hotbed. It's a big population there, right? And it reaches into California, and their recruitment certainly reaches across the border as well. But it's not traditionally where we've seen big talents come from.
Yeah. Maybe not in the past, but right now Tijuana actually is one of the teams that are pushing more the
Mhm.
young talent with Sebastian Abreu, that is his coach right now. He is making a very good work. And actually, besides they weren't qualified to the playoffs, they played pretty well and actually better than expected. And they have also other figures that can be in the spotlight pretty soon.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting development. What do you think is the pressure on young Mora? Because when I think back about Mexican football, and we get to the troubles of the World Cup in a moment here, there have been big stars, right? Like Chicharito comes to mind. Hirving Lozano was a big star in Europe. He's having issues just across the border from where, where Mora is playing in San Diego, where he's currently suspended despite receiving a salary of over $9 million a year, which I would be sitting out that too if I was him. Fair enough. He comes to mind, and Alvarez is playing in Europe. He hasn't really come fully through. Mexican football, despite the enormous population and having produced some significant talent, has never produced a megastar who could also reflect that performance consistently on the pitch. Why do you think that is? And what does that mean for Mora's career going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question because it has a lot of possible responses or answers. But I think I'm going to summarize it in two maybe main points. One of them it's the market of the Mexican league. As you know, most of the teams have a lot of money to pay a lot of money for biggest stars. For example, I'm going to put a name on here that is Chiquete Orozco. He's a defender from Cruz Azul that he was he was watched for Anderlecht from Belgium, and Anderlecht wanted to offer around of 3 million euros for him. Chivas said no, because Cruz Azul offered $11 million for him,
Mm,
and now he's playing for Cruz Azul as well. So the moment of Chiquete Orozco is not the best one. He's actually injured, and he's maybe not going to Europe in the next years. And I think that's a big problem in the Mexican league because most of the teams have the budget and the investment to hire or sign new players, Mexican players as well, but they usually keep them for a long term. And maybe when they turn around of 27 or 28 years, like Alexis Vega, for example, they are in their prime, but any team of Europe don't want to pay that amount for them because it seems like very expensive to pay maybe 10 millions for a player that just turned 28 years old. So I think that's one of the biggest points. But besides that, also, we don't generate that much people because we have a lot of foreigners in our league.
mm,
But I think that is changing over the last years. As you know, we implemented in the Mexican league a new rule of giving some minutes, around 1,000 minutes to players under 23 years old. So since that rule started in the Mexican league, we started to see some stars, actually big stars like Marcel Ruiz, like for example Gilberto Mora,
mm,
Ociel Herrera, and other stars, for example from Chivas. Chivas, that's the only choice that they can take. They only play with Mexican players. But since that moment, they started to also improve the way that they develop young talents. So I think those are the main topics, but we also can discuss about that we don't have relegation, that we don't
mm,
have promotion. I totally understand that, for example, in the MLS works like in a similar
mm,
way. But I think the difference in the MLS and the Mexican League is that most of the teams of the United States are very transparent with their numbers. And in Mexico, they aren't because actually we just a few months ago, we received an offer from an investor group that wanted to join to the Mexican League and invest in every team. But one of the conditions was that every team had to share their numbers,
mm,
and most of them didn't want to do that. So I
yeah.
think we have many issues, but the main issues that we can identify that are, maybe stopping the development of the Mexican League are the transparency, that we need to push more talents. But I think this rule of minutes are helping a lot of that, and that we have a lot of foreigners and we don't have promotion or relegation.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this quite a bit lately too. That even clubs like Chivas they recruit Americans with a Mexican passports, right? Because they
Exactly.
Chivas is like is not the same as Athletic Bilbao, but a similar idea that you have to have a Mexican passport to play for Chivas. But they replied more loosely. You can be an American, but if you have a Mexican passport, you're still okay. As
That's
long,
enough. Yeah, because it was very difficult to find
yeah.
talents just in Mexico, and they are also trying to find people in other countries, for example, in Europe as
Mhm.
well. And this is not just like a strategy from Chivas, because it's also a strategy of the Mexican national team. Andres Lilini is pushing a lot this strategy to try to identify some profiles, for example, in France, some profiles in Portugal, and other kind of players that maybe have yeah uh, uh, relation with the Mexican maybe culture, maybe with the family or other type of relation. But yeah, I think right now the strategy is to try to look in other leagues to find Mexican people or Mexican related people
Mm.
and try to bring them to Mexico, maybe for the national team or also to Chivas, for example.